Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Dave, also known as Luvindemtrains, and I'm back with another project that I was not sure if I wanted to begin at this point, and I'll explain that later. But what you see is a bunch of buildings kind of sitting out. I've been finagling with basically designing this town, and the main purpose for this town is to showcase the downtown deco buildings, and mostly the older ones, which I think have a lot of character. I may intersperse some other buildings if I can make that work, like this building on the end with the onion dome. Though it is plaster, it is not downtown deco, but I'm just very fascinated with that building. I've seen it on the internet and in many photos, and had the opportunity to get one and jumped on it. But as I said earlier, I was hesitant about starting this project here because in the rear of the layout, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in a moment, and on the other side of the big truss bridge, there's another project that's going to be unfolding, and I don't want to get too much started towards the front where I have to climb over, but I think what I'm going to do here is going to make the project a little bit easier and get me started on it until I'm able to get to this other project in the rear. If that makes any sense. So what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a template, and it's going to actually be a lift out section just on foam that I can lift out and work on, just like I have done on a few areas of the layout. And that'll give me the opportunity to go ahead and start this project, and also it'll give me the opportunity where I can go ahead and do some detailing off the workbench and kind of experiment. But I think that's probably the best way to go, so that this project doesn't have to wait several months to get started. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is go ahead and just start taking these buildings off, and I'll get the template work started. All right, so I've removed all the buildings, and here's the area that I have to work with. It's not very big at all, so I'm going to have to be very creative about arranging the town here. This section is probably about 43 by 57 inches, roughly. As you can see, it's not a perfect shape, so that's give or take. And then on the other side of the bridge is where the other project is going to go. Try to take the camera over there in just a moment so you can see that section. So what I'm going to do now is create a template so that I can go ahead and use it to cut the foam out that will house the town diorama. Sorry if I'm a bit shaky, but this is the other side where I have another project in the works as well. And this is not as large as the other side. This section here is about 37 by 47 inches, roughly. You can see there's kind of like a trapezoid type shape there. So we're going to try to fit this other project in. And of course, I will document that project as well. Okay, I'm back. And what you see now is my base for the city diorama, or the town diorama. And I wanted to do it in one piece, but I didn't have a piece of either color in a large enough size, so I decided to not halt the project till I could get to the hardware store to get one piece. I just decided to work with what I have several pieces this size and smaller, but I need to go ahead and utilize it. So what I thought about is, once I get this all in place and pieced together, that there are going to be, even within this particular diorama and this base piece here, there are going to be some added pieces to create undulations in the terrain, which is what I'm going for. I don't want just flatness. So some of the buildings will be higher than others. And I could just gel pieces of foam together and cut them as needed. But that blue part on the right will be connected to the pink foam that's on the left through adding certain pieces to the landform here. So I'm getting where I need to get with the project, just trying to think carefully, because honestly, I have this vision. I still don't know exactly where the buildings are going to be placed, but I do have this vision in my mind of what I want the overall picture to communicate and the type of look that I want to have. So I'm just taking it with stride and trying to be patient and think things through before I move to the next step. So at this point in time, I'm going to work on connecting the pieces with the undulations, and then eventually I'll start applying some of the buildings. And like I said, creating some undulations where we have a pretty realistic terrain as far as having buildings at different levels. I really think that's going to be effective. So let me keep going with this. All right, everyone, I am back with the first iteration of what I may consider as far as the town layout, or the layout of the town. And I'll tell you, the biggest problem with this and the frustration I'm dealing with right now has to do with the fact that I just have way too many kits and buildings, and I'm not going to be able to use them all. And so it makes it more difficult to pick and choose. But the way I have it laid out now, the road is going to come out from the right there on that underpass. Will come straight down to the tracks, this grade crossing, which you can't see in this particular view, but it'll intersect with the road that goes over the grade crossing. I also want to do a few nooks and crannies. So if you look past the building on the corner there with the onion dome, right to the right of that, there's a little road or alleyway, which I think will be kind of neat. A little aspect to the town where I can do some detailing. So I definitely want that feature there. And I'll take you around to the other side so that you can see what the rear part of this section looks like. All right, so this is the view when you come inside the layout that most people will see when they look at the town here. So the only thing that I'm thinking I may add, if you look at this building with the staircase here, I have another one just like it that I'm thinking I want to put in and have it in the demolition stages. I think that might be cool. You also see Molly's Diner hid back there in the cut. Not sure if I'm going to keep it there, but I'm experimenting because I do have a little bit of space. But I also understand that I do not have to cover every bit of that template with a building. I think it'd be neat to have a little bit of open space there. But the little alleyway that comes back probably have some kind of barriers, of course, so that the drivers won't run into the tracks. And of course, I'll blend those edges of the pink foam so that they're level with the railroad tracks. But this is where we're at now. We'll see if I keep it this way or if I make some modifications. Okay, I wanted to show you what I'm going to be installing next. These are sidewalks by Downtown Deco, and I've used a similar product from another company on another part of the layout, which I do have a video to as well. but I wanted to try these out because I am growing fond of plaster and hydrocal, and plus this is going to be a predominantly downtown deco city using most of his products at this point anyway. But these come in, they're about 2¼ inches wide, about 9½ inches long for each sidewalk, and then he also has these corner pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and chop these up to fit my layout. Unfortunately, because of the small space, I'm not going to be able to utilize the full width in most areas. Not going to be able to utilize the full width of the sidewalk. Just don't have that much real estate. But I think these are going to be very effective. So I'm going to beat them up and chop them up and weather them up a little bit and get those in place. And I'll be back. All right, everyone, I'm back. Here's the second iteration of the town scene. And I like this, and I went for this because obviously you can see the fronts of the buildings. And it gives it a little bit of character the way it's configured. In such a small space, I don't have a lot of options, but I want whatever I do to make sense and also make a statement in this particular area, because this is towards the front of the layout. I just kind of laid some of the sidewalks out. They're not secured. Of course, I'll have to cut them to fit the areas. I'm just going to sit on this for a little while and see if I want to change it up or just modify it or leave it alone. I do really want to have a building here that is being demolished. This is going to be kind of a rundown town, kind of a small urban town, riddled with poverty. And we're all accustomed to seeing areas like that near the railroad tracks. So that is what I am trying to accomplish. So I'm going to shut this thing down while the creative juices are flowing and see what I come up with and see if I can't come to some conclusion on this. So before I conclude this particular segment, just wanted to quickly show you where I was thinking about putting that demolished building. If you look to the left, we've got this restaurant, which is going to be on my layout. And there's a little bit of space right there where I could possibly put that building and have it worn down. As you can see, the road here is going to be kind of at an angle, as you can see by the sidewalk on the right going into the town. But for me to get to the area that I'm actually at right now, I had to actually crawl under the bench work. So this clearly will not be an angle that most people will see, but I'll use it for photography and also when I'm running the layout and taking footage of the trains going through the scenery. So now I will get back to my concentration while it's up. Not much time left in the day before that fails me. All right, everyone. As you may have noticed in the time lapse, I am not going with any of the configurations of buildings I showed in this video.
As the video plays out, you can see several configurations I experimented with. Though I didn't want this area to be flat, what I came up with just didn't work. I was almost sold on the last configuration I showed, but something just didn't feel right to me. Anyways, through the magic of video, you were able to see my progress in just over 16 minutes. But in reality, just figuring out how I wanted to configure the buildings took about 2 months. I guess this one was a lesson in patience. I once had a wonderful model railroader tell me that he waits at least a month before finalizing the setup of a town. I certainly understand that more now. Well, in the next one, you will see the footprint I came up with and how I create bases for some of the structures to sit on. I also will begin painting those bases along with the sidewalks. Stay tuned for part 2 of what will be a mini-series of building the town on the wrong side of the tracks. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, later y'all.